Hello, I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Welcome and thanks for your time. For this, the second and final program in the series, my colleague Carla Daniel takes up position on the Foul Bay Beach in St. Philip. This is the coconut, something for everyone. Carla, what do you have for us today?
Today I'm going to share a myriad of ways that the coconut tree is used in other places. Some of them will be unfamiliar, but these are all things that we can adopt and do right here at home. This grove provides a welcome respite from the blistering Caribbean sun. This, however, is not something that is unusual. It can be seen on beaches throughout the region as well as beaches in the Pacific. And that is a natural grove of coconut trees. Areas where coconuts would have washed ashore, settled, put roots down, and become well established. It is on an otherwise desert-like, beautiful sandy beach, an area where you can relax in the shade. It literally feels about 90 degrees cooler under these trees than it did in the sun. It is also an area where, if you are very lucky, you can sit and have a cool drink as you just enjoy being outside and being in nature. Coconut trees have been called the tree of life. They've also been called the tree of 1,000 uses. And you might think that's an exaggeration because when you start to think of the ways they're typically used, you can't get beyond your two hands.
Children of yesteryear engaged in many sporting activities on the beaches of Barbados. Cricket, being a very popular sport enjoyed by many, was among that number. But what was the connection with cricket and the coconut palm? Well, it is also a story of improvisation. Our children of yesteryear delighted in making use of the available resources around them to enjoy togetherness, a game of cricket, and of course, their environment.
So this is an example of what people would have used as a cricket bat. Now it's a little bit short, but if you can imagine scoring up to the stumps, feet together, and you're just waiting to hit that cover drive or to make that stroke over mid-cover. See if my cricket skills from my youth remain. Woo! These things make amazing, amazing cricket bats. So you want them dry. And normally when you find a grove of coconut trees, there are many dried leaves on the ground. So all you need to do is cut them at the appropriate length and get ready to let bat meet ball.
Speaking about bat meeting ball, did our children back then have the required cricket ball or rubber ball or tennis ball to enjoy the game of cricket? Well, more often than not, they did not. How was it played? They improvise by making use of what, Carla?
Young coconuts that don't actually stay on the tree long enough to create mature, ripe fruit have been used for many years in games of cricket. I don't know how many times you would have been back playing a game of cricket on the beach and you use a young coconut as the ball and you actually use the base of a coconut leaf, that wide, hard base, as the trunk. So you can have your bowler with his ball and your batsman with his bat, all from the coconut tree. And many games of beach cricket have been won and lost based on the quality of the young coconut. So it is not just the use of these things in our houses and to craft things with, but they have played an integral role in our culture as young people growing up on the island of Barbados.
Well said. And so the coconut has a place on the sporting landscape of Barbados. Carla continues with the many ways in which this palm could be used.
Coconut trees are useful from the very branches, well, we all know they're not branches, from the leaves, down to the roots that are deep in the ground. Now, I don't know how many of you would have grown up like me, but I grew up with a grandmother who would heavily utilize this midrib that can be found just in the middle of a coconut tree leaflet. Now, this midrib is made of a very hard material. It's almost like a small stick. It's still a bit pliable, but it is perfect for use as a skewer. You can also use it, as my grandmother did, to test your cooking. So often she would have a cake in the oven and she would send me outside to get a knife and clean one of these coconut ribs, only to come back inside for her to open the oven and use it to test the cake to see whether it was well done or not. If you don't cook much, let me just let you know, when you stick the rib in the cake and it comes out dry, the cake is done. If it comes out and there's any cake stuck to the rib, it still needs a bit more cooking.
And yes, you could trust Carla. She is very good with the culinary arts. Let us continue our look at the useful nature of this palm, particularly how it was used to sweep our floors and our surroundings.
These have also been used for decades to keep our yards clean. So our people would take these midribs, probably put together a couple hundred of them, and they normally would use a can. Maybe it was a milk tot or whatever kind of can. So you'd cut the bottom off the can and take the top off, so you have a metal cylinder. You would gather all of these sticks together and you would place the tin over the top to hold them in place. That thing that you would have created is now a broom. And this broom would sweep from the largest items to the tiniest grain of sand, allowing people to, for almost no money, just from things around the house, keep their surroundings extremely clean. Now, not only were these things used in the kitchen and for cleaning, but the leaves of the coconut themselves were often used to create roofs on houses and also the sides of buildings. So you would see people collecting coconut branches and cutting them and layering them over one another to create a roof. This roof was waterproof, it kept the sun out, and they would last for over a year. Some others would take the branches and they would weave them together, forming tight-knit patterns that they would use to make the sides of buildings as well. And these were low cost, took a little bit of time, but absolutely gorgeous when the work was finished.
Great craftsmanship of our people. This discussion continues as Carla now shows us how the hard shell, the fibrous husk, and the leaves can be used as material to make a variety of products for furnishing and decorating.
Now, in more recent times, you would also see people using these coconut leaves to make bowls and to make hats that are often sold as souvenirs to tourists. And many of these items, once they dry and they cure, they can be around for years and years. And if you decide to preserve them, perhaps by painting, etc., they can last even longer. Now, it already seems, I'm sure, as though the leaves themselves are extremely valuable, but the use of the leaves pales in comparison to some other parts of the tree. And next, I want to tell you about the coconut trunk. Now, this trunk, not typically when you hear about wood, you're thinking about cedar, you're thinking about pine, mahogany, teak, all of those extremely expensive and extremely popular hardwoods. But coconut lumber itself is very, very valuable. This wood has been used to make furniture, to make buildings and houses, used in the crafting of canoes, as well as planks to make boats and so on. This wood has been very, very valuable. People have used it because some coconut trees do grow quite straight. People have used them for pillars, etc. So coconut wood is something that can be used very, very, very well.
Before the days of the scouring pad or Brillo pad, we made good use of what we call the coconut fiber to scrub our pots and pans and other utensils.
You would notice that there's something that grows at the base of the branches. I call it coconut fiber. I have a bit of it right here, and it really does look very similar to something. Now this looks a whole lot like the scrubbing pads that we used to use in the kitchen. You know, they're those square pads that would come with detergent already inside, and you would wet them and use them to scrub your pots and pans. Well, when my grandmother didn't have any of those, again, she would send me outside and I would get a piece of coconut fiber, and you would put your soap on this, and this could be used to scrub, to clean away remnants of any macaroni pie or any kind of baked pork or baked chicken from the side of your Pyrex dish or your aluminum pan. And once again, it's coming straight off the tree, and there is absolutely no cost to you. Coconuts have also been used to make paper, if you're not aware. So some of the wood has been used to make a paper pulp, which can create paper used for arts and crafts, or a more sturdy fiber that can be used to make a type of cardboard or even a plywood. So it is extremely valuable. That paper pulp doesn't just have to come from the trunk, but it can come from the actual coconut husk from the fruit themselves. Now, it's not all, things for your house or things to use, but there is a lot that can be consumed from the coconut tree. One of those is a type of alcohol that is fermented using the coconut sap. And you're probably thinking, looking at this hard, thick, fibrous tree, where on earth would you get sap from? But you get your sap from up in the top. So people would cut the inflorescence sometimes, and I've seen images where people have also cut the base of young leaves, collect the sap in a container, and allow it to ferment. And that is something that can be drunk and consumed.
Truly something for everyone. Rodents, particularly rats, they do love the coconut tree. It is an interesting story of which Carla knows very well.
And I first heard this story of the amazing, I guess you could say, interaction between the rat and the coconut tree as I was sitting on a beach late at night listening to rustling in the leaves overhead. Now, if you can imagine a coconut tree that is full of fruit, inside of those fruit you have the delicious coconut meat, that white substance that's on the inside of the shell, and you also have coconut water. All of that is an amazing source of food for something that might be hungry, like a rat. So rats will come to coconut trees, and they are extremely good climbers. So they will come to the base of the trunk, and using their claws, they will quickly scamper and climb and make their way up the trunk into the top of the coconut tree. There, they can use their teeth and bite and tear a hole into the coconut to get to the nourishing food on the inside. The only problem comes when the rat is sated, has eaten and drunk his fill. How does he get out of the coconut tree? Now, if you picture a rat, his shoulders are quite small, his head is quite small, the majority of the muscle sits in the hindquarters. If he tries to climb down a vertical trunk, he's gonna fall straight off because the weight is at the back. So he will topple over butt first and follow the tree. So how is this animal going to escape what he thought was an amazing meal but has turned into a death trap? Now, this story, I think, is completely ingenious. The rat will bite a hole into a coconut. He then goes inside of that hole, sits in the coconut, sticks his head out of the hole, and nibbles through the piece of material connecting that coconut to the bunch. Once he has nibbled through, the coconut falls to the ground, and he is inside, safe from the shock, safe from any damage because of that thick, dense layer of fiber around the coconut, And once on the ground, he is able to climb out of that coconut and scamper off. So anytime you look under a coconut tree and you see coconuts with holes in them, those are the vehicles that rats would have used to exit the coconut tree once they were finished. You'll also often see people wrapping galvanized or some other type of smooth material around the trunk, and that is to prevent the rats from getting into the tree. So they will climb, but once they hit that smooth metal, they're unable to find any purchase for their claws, and they can't get any further.
And that is good news for all of us. If you have coconut palms, consider wrapping a portion of it with smooth material to prevent the rats from climbing and eating our coconuts. Now, in the next segment of the program, Carla was successful in persuading me to assume another role where I, having harvested a coconut, prepared that coconut so Carla could enjoy the water and the fruit.
Now, these large green globes grow almost in a bunch like grapes at the very top of the coconut tree. And they are highly in demand. And one of the primary reasons is because when they're green like this, you can harvest them at about 5 to 7 months, and they contain a copious amount of the elixir of the gods, otherwise known as coconut water. This water is rich in electrolytes. In fact, if you are dehydrated, it is absolutely perfect to bring you right back up to scratch. It contains quite a lot of potassium, also a bit of magnesium, some calcium, trace amounts of protein, and it contains carbohydrates. So it's not just healthy water, but this water tastes amazing. Now, as the coconut ages, this water becomes transformed into what we call the meat of the coconut, a thick, hard substance that lines the inside of the shell. Now, when you get at the right stage, you can get the soft meat, which we call jelly. That's this white thing right in here that's on the inside. Absolutely delicious, as well as the water. Now, what is the best thing to mix coconut water with? If you believe some people, you can drink it on its own, but if you are from the Caribbean or from Barbados, rum. Rum and coconut water go hand in hand. Yes, we don't have any rum today. Don't get too excited. But rum and coconut water are delicious. You also have these red sodas that we have on the island, and people would often mix the coconut water with red soda as well. Coconut water consumption is so popular in Barbados that we have pop-up coconut shops all alongside the roadway where you can go and you can watch the guys cut the coconuts. They do it much faster than Sherwood is cutting this one. But they will drive through coconuts. You can cut and you can get a bottle of coconut water, either a 2-liter bottle or a small bottle. Or if you are environmentally conscious, you can bring your bottle from home and collect your coconut water right there on the spot. If you only want enough for one, they can just cut the top of the coconut for you and you can drink directly from the vessel. Now, coconut water can be had fresh out of the fruit. It actually lasts quite a long time. So if you put it in your refrigerator, you can probably consume it for about a week. It tastes amazing, chilled, and I just can't say enough about it. It has even been given intravenously to people when they have been dehydrated, because coconut water, you get it straight into the vein. You know, normally they would give you a bag of saline or whatever to replace your electrolytes. Coconut water has all of the electrolytes that you might need. So this really is the nectar of the gods. If you're going to survive on that desert island, it would probably be because there's a coconut tree present. So Sherwood has finally got this coconut open. It's a little bit butchered, but you know, we don't really care. We don't watch in the face, as they would say. And be careful with your dress. Don't worry about the dress. We're gonna.
Drink it all.
Too much. That was so good. And I mean, the cool thing about this is that there are different varieties of coconuts. You're gonna see some green like this. You'll see some smaller ones that are elongated, that are yellow. Depending on how ripe the fruit is, the coconut can have a slightly kind of green taste, or it can taste nice and mellow and sweet. And it actually gets to the point where it can taste quite sweet and even have a hint of fizziness, depending on the coconut. But one of the things it never tastes is bad. Coconut water is always, always, always delicious. So in addition to its health benefits, of which there are many, there are just so many benefits in terms of culinary uses as well. Your taste buds just literally dance in your mouth. They open like flowers as soon as that coconut water hits them. Now, it's never been said that I'm a selfish person, so even though this is amazing, I'm going to share so that Sherwood can enjoy some as well. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, so coconut trees are pretty tall. These are these large bunches. How do people get these coconuts out of the tree? Do you throw rocks and hit them and knock them down? Absolutely not. Guys have been known to climb coconut trees using their bare feet. No rope, no nothing. Climbing coconut trees using their hands, they just shimmy up the trunk, and when they get to the top, they will cut the branch down and let it fall to the ground, and then the coconuts can be harvested. In more recent times, people have started using coconut boots with spikes so that they're able to adhere to the trunk a little bit more, make it a little bit safer, but those spikes do damage the trunk a little. But coconut water, whether you climb the tree half naked, whether you use spike shoes to get it, whether you buy it from the side of the road because you don't have your own tree, it is amazingly beneficial. Now, we talked about the coconut jelly, which is very nutritious. It can fill you quite quickly. That is amazing. We've talked about the coconut water. But if you leave the fruits on the tree long enough, they get dry. And that is when the meat of the coconut is actually present. And there are so many things that you can do with the coconut meat. So I just want you to prepare yourself for this amazing fruit. Now, this right here is the nut that is found in a coconut. And this is where it got its name from. So when you hear the word coconut, this is the nut that people are referring to, this very hard thing right here. So normally you have the outside of the coconut getting quite brown. You get a nut like this left inside. Now this will still have some water, probably not a lot. And if I can take the liberty to borrow this cutlass, I believe I can probably chop this. We're going to see what happens.
No.
No, you don't chop it?
No, you just want to crack it.
Oh! Oh! Sherwood's here showing me up. So we have the nuts. Can you smell this? What does this smell like? It has an amazingly coconutty, but it also smells quite oily. And this coconut can come out of the shell, if you see here. So the nut itself, amazingly good. It's so thick to believe that that water that we had just now, over time becomes this thick flesh, which really, once the seed germinates, would feed the young plant. We're not allowing this coconut to germinate. This coconut is going to be consumed. Now this flesh, if I could describe the taste, it tastes a little bit sweet. It has a kind of creamy taste as well. It's just absolutely delicious. Now because of the sweetness, it is used in many, many desserts all around the world. It's like something called conky that is made in Barbados with pumpkin and sweet potato and coconut as well. Cassava pone uses coconut too. There's so many. Back in the day, when people may not have had enough money for meat, they would actually grind this coconut and cook it in rice in place of meat. Oh, really? Now, I don't know if you know this, but you can take the whole coconut and you can put it in the fire and roast it, similar to how you would roast breadfruit. And when you crack it, when it goes black on the outside, you crack it and you get something that tastes smoky and meaty. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you can actually eat roasted coconut and it has a kind of bacon ham flavor that is absolutely divine. Now, if I've not whet your appetite enough, I'm going to let you know that this coconut can be ground and then you squeeze the liquid that comes out, and that is called coconut milk. that also has many health benefits, but it's also widely used, especially in Asia, in many culinary delights. So that coconut milk can go into curries and stews. It also goes into one very tropical, popular cocktail, which we all know as pina colada. Without this coconut and that coconut milk, there would be no pina coladas whatsoever. In some places, they actually ferment the coconut milk with yeast and sugar and make an alcoholic home brew, which is very, very delicious. From the time I heard that, I was excited to try it. Now, the coconut, while the meat is very valuable, the shell is also quite valuable as well. When you don't break it like this, you can use this shell as a container to drink out of or to eat food from. People also carve it and make all kinds of amazing things, from bags to bird feeders, etc. It can also be ground up and added to things like your face soap and your body soap and used as an exfoliant. People have made buttons and belt buckles. You can carve utensils out of it. So you can have coconut forks and coconut spoons and get away from that single-use plastics. There are so many things that you can do with this coconut. Now, the fiber that is on the outside of the shell, so actually when this, you can see it right here, this white fiber goes dry and we peel it off the outside, that creates something that we call coir. This coir is used in horticulture, so you have it for use with plants. It's also mixed in with mulch and soil amendments, etc. Coir has also been used in the past to fill the gaps between the boards when people are caulking boats and making them waterproof. There's also some places where people make a tea from that coconut fiber, and it's supposedly really good for inflammatory disorders and diseases. So there are so many things. You can again scrub pots with it. So if you don't want to go for the metal or those plastic scrubbers, you can use the fiber, both the fiber from the shell and the fiber that grows on the trunk around the base of the leaves. You can use those to scrub your pots and pans. Now, this is just a small taste of the immense value that is inherent within the coconut tree. So I am thinking that we mentioned a couple types of food, but there really is so much else. Everybody knows that Caribbean people do not believe that soup is soup without dumplings. Have you ever had a coconut dumpling in your chicken soup? Absolutely delicious. In some Caribbean islands, they make their bakes with coconut as well. We don't do it in Barbados, but in some of the other countries, they have a bake, which is a type of flat fried bread, and they put coconut in there too. Sometimes after the coconut milk is extracted and you have that dried coconut material, which they call copra, it is used as livestock and animal feed. There are just so many things, I cannot say it enough, that can be used or done when you have coconut. So we have talked about the value of the coconut trunk. We've talked about the value of the coconut leaves. We've talked about the value of the green fruit to our culture and, you know, raising cricket legends like Sir Garfield Sobers and the Walcotts, etc. from playing beach cricket. We have talked about the value of the flowers and the young coconuts to bees and to other, in some places, crabs as well. There are coconut crabs that will actually climb coconut trees and go for the fruit themselves. We have talked about the value of the green fruit and, of course, of the dry fruit as well. But the tree as a whole has amazing aesthetic value also. It's often used in landscaping because it has these glorious fronds that are green. It sometimes reminds me a bit of a fern. So it provides shade, but it also really makes your building look good. So it is value to any landscape. Now, we do know that when trees are planted sometimes on narrow beaches, they can increase the amount of erosion, and there are some things that you really need to think about when you're going to plant your coconut tree. But that has nothing to do with the value of the tree itself. So just remember, coconut fruit, when they get ripe and they go dry, they will fall. So you do want to be careful where you're planting your tree, and you also want to be careful that your tree is well maintained. So any dry branches, you take them off. When the fruit are getting ripe, you get somebody to come in and to cut them. If you want to ensure that no rats are going into your tree, you want to take a piece of what we call sheet metal or smooth metal, or even maybe a sheet of plastic if you have, and you want to attach it to the trunk of your tree. If you like relaxing in the cool breezes, you might want to plant 2 trees close together so that you can string up your hammock and have your picnic underneath. You may also want to stick, a bottle of rum close at hand so you can have your coconut water and your rum. Whatever you do, ensure that you have a coconut professional to cut your coconut. So I am clearly not that. I am more likely to lose a finger than to get my coconut open. But once that coconut is open, the plethora of delights that await you, they really are incomparable. So I hope at this point you are just overflowing with excitement of all of the possibilities of this amazing tree of life, this tree of 1,000 uses, our very own coconut tree. What is extremely important anytime you are at a beach, in a park, anywhere enjoying yourself, regardless of whether you're doing so with coconuts or many of the other delightful fruit that we have available on the island, is that you leave wherever you are cleaner after you've left than it was when you first arrived. So we're just going to collect all of these. You can actually take them home and cut them up a bit smaller and put them in your compost heap. Or you can put them somewhere at the back of the beach to degrade. But we want the area to be just as clean as it was when we found it, when we're leaving.
The coconut, something for everyone. It's been a pleasure, I'm sure, with McCaskey. I do look forward to having you along next week at the same time as we continue to celebrate and share aspects of Barbadian history and heritage as we look forward to celebrating Regathering 2020. It's goodbye for now.